Good morning, my dear student. Today we're going to take a new lesson, which is friction force. What's meant by friction force? It's the force between two surfaces in a contact that act in a direction opposite to the direction of motion and causes the object to slow down and stop. What's meant by that? It's mean. If you have now, put your hand together like this and try to touch both hands together, okay, and move it. Here is this called the friction force. The force between the two surfaces in contact that act in a direction opposite. If you see, one is up, other is down, one is up and other is down, and so on. This motion is in opposite direction. This friction is in opposite direction. So the friction force is opposite direction to the direction of the motion. Okay? That causes the slow down, then stop. If you ride your bicycle and you move, then suddenly you find the bicycle is slowed down. Then it stops. What's mean by that? Why the bike slowed down and stop? Due to friction force. Here we have different example. Number one, when you slide down a slide, there will be touch. There will be touch or contact between your body and the slide. So if your body touch the slide, this is called the friction force. Two body touch each other. The first body is your body and second body is the slide, which is called friction force. Another example, when a car moves on a road, there will be touch between the car tire and the road. If you have here is the car and here is the tire. The tire touch the road. The tire touch the road. The two bodies touch each other. This due to friction force. The third example we said already. When you rub our hand together, we will feel warm. If you rub your hand together, faster, 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 you will feel your hand is a warm. That is the friction force. Okay. There are different types of friction force. The first type is between solid object. The second type is between solid object and air. The third type is the solid and water. Again, there are different types of friction force. Number one, between two solid and solid, between solid and air, between solid and water. Again, there are the types of friction: solid and solid, solid and air, solid and water. We will thus discuss in details the first type, which is the friction between solid objects. The friction force arises when two surfaces touch each other. We say they have two bodies contact each other. Two bodies touch each other. Like the car tire and the road, like wrapping your hand together, like the boy who's sliding. What's meaning of sliding? You know the slide, which you find in the garden? The boy slide through the sliding toy. These the two bodies touch each other. We say before, the direction which comes from the friction force is always opposite direction. We have to know that the friction force is opposite direction to the movement. The friction is opposite to movement, opposite direction to the movement. Okay. Give reason why the body stop during motion. If you move or you walk, then you stop. Why you stop? Because the friction force. So the reason for stopping the body during motion is the friction force. Okay, when the friction force is larger than the movement, so the body doesn't move and vice versa. What's mean by that? Of course, you know that the friction is opposite to the movement. So if the friction is larger than movement, so body stop. Again, if the friction is larger than movement, because we say the friction is opposite to the movement, so the body stop. What's mean by vice versa? Mean that if the movement is larger than the friction, so the body will move. So if the friction is large, so the body stop. If the movement is large, so the body will move. Now we take the friction between two solid body. Now we're going to take their factors. We're going to continue the factors between the two solid bodies. What are the factors affecting the friction force? We have type of surface area, speed of the body, the surface area of moving object. Again, the factor which affecting friction force, number one, the type of surface area, the speed of the body, the surface area of moving object. Some students confused between the factors of friction force and the type of the friction force. There is a difference between the factors and the type. You have to know the difference between the factors which are affecting the friction and the type which the different type of friction force, because sometimes you wrote the factor as a different type and you write the different type as a factors, and it's a wrong answer. Okay, so the factors again, number one, the type of the surface material, the speed of the body, the surface area. Now we're going to take the surface material, or the type of the surface material. We have rough surface and smooth surface. Here we have smooth surface, and now we have rough surface. What's the difference between the smooth surface and rough surface according to the friction force? For the rough surface, if you have a ball and try to move it, they will move, then stop. They will move for a while, then stop quickly. But for the smooth surface, you will find the friction already. Here I try to stop it. They are moving already by itself because they are smooth surface. So the friction force decrease. The friction force, as you see here, it's moving according to the smooth surface because the friction force is decreased. In the smooth surface, the friction decreased. But in the rough surface, here is the rough surface, it's increased. The friction force increase. So the ball will move for a while, then stop. But for the smooth surface, the ball will move already for a long distance. Why it's moving for long distance? Because it's a smooth surface. But for the rough surface, the friction force increase. Again, you have two surface material. Number one, rough surface. Number two, smooth surface. The rough surface, the friction force increase. Okay? But in the smooth surface, the friction force decrease. Okay, my dear student? Okay. Now, we're going to take another factor, which is the speed of the body. Sometimes we'll say Speed of body meaning velocity. Speed of body meaning, in other words, is velocity. What is the speed of the body? There is a direct relation between the speed of moving body and the friction force. What's mean by that? Meaning, if the speed of body increase, the friction force increase, and vice versa. What's mean of vice versa? Meaning, if the speed decrease, the friction force will decrease. We have now slow object, low speed, and fast object, high speed. By decreasing the speed, the friction force decrease. We said now there is a direct relationship between the speed and the friction. What's mean by that? It's mean that if the speed increase, the friction will increase. And vice versa, mean the speed increase, so the friction increase. Again, the speed of body. We have low speed and high speed. If low speed, it mean low friction. High speed mean high friction. As the speed decrease, it mean friction decrease. As the speed increase, it mean the friction increase. So the relation between them is a direct relationship. By increasing the speed, the friction increase. By decreasing the speed, the friction decrease. Okay. The last factor, which is the surface area of moving object. We have here large surface area and small surface area. Here, the large one and the small one. What's the difference between them? If the surface area increase, as you see, the surface area increase, so the friction will increase. In other side, if the surface area small, so the surface area decrease, so the friction force will decrease. Again, for the surface area of moving object. If we have large surface area, so the increase the surface area, so the friction increase. If we have decreased surface area, so the friction force decrease. Now we're going to give reason. There is a direct relationship between surface area and friction force. Sorry, I forget what's mean by direct relationship. Direct relationship meaning if the surface area increase, so the friction force increase. If the surface area decrease, it's mean the friction force decrease. That's mean direct relationship. By increasing this increase. By decreasing this will be decreased. That's here is the answer, because by increasing the surface area of the moving object, the friction force increase and vice versa. What's meaning of vice versa? Meaning if this decrease, this also will decrease. Okay? Then the second type, we finished the first type with the friction between two solids. Now the second type, which is friction between solid and air, which is mean, in other words, the air resistance. Air resistance is a type of friction force resulting from moving an object through air, like the bird, plane, rocket. Those are the body which is trying to move through the air. The direction of the air resistance act in the opposite direction to the movement. It's the same, what we said before, is the same for the friction. We said the friction is the opposite direction to the movement. The air resistance is also in the opposite direction to the movement. Why? Because the air resistance is a type of friction. It's the type of the friction. So what happened to the friction? It will be the same for the air resistance. Okay? Okay. Again, what's meant by air resistance? Define air resistance. Scientific term. It's the type of friction, force resulting from the movement of an object through air. What's mean by that? It's mean air resistance. Okay. Complete. The direction of air resistance act in dot. Act in dot direction to the movement. It's act in opposite direction to the movement. What are the factors of the air resistance? The factor of air resistance, the speed and the surface area. What is the type of material? No, there is here the factor. There is no type of material. This factor is not found in this friction. This type is not found, or this factor is not found in this friction. It's only factors which affecting the air resistance, only this, which is the speed of the body and the surface area. The speed of body. By increasing the speed, the air resistance will increase. And the same side, if we decrease the speed, the air resistance will decrease. When you run fast in open air, that's called air resistance. When you ride a bicycle at high speed, this is called air resistance. When a car moves at high speed, those are called air resistance. And those are all are direct relationship. Why? Because if you run fast, so air resistance increase. When you increase the speed, air resistance increase. Here, when you ride the bicycle, here your speed increase, so air resistance increase. If you moving your car very fast, so air resistance increase. So the three pictures are the same. Increasing the speed, so the air resistance will increase. So they are all are in a direct relationship. What about the surface area? Here is we have why all the body, like train, like bird, parachute, are made in the streamline shape. What's meaning of streamline shape? Taking this shape. This is called streamline shape. That's called streamline shape. Why they are taking the streamline shape? Why the train, aircraft, new cars, rockets are designing in the streamline shape, taking this shape? Number one, to decrease a surface area. When it decreases the surface area, so the air resistance decrease. Again, why those bodies are created or are designed in streamline shape? Number one, to decrease the surface area. And at the same time, if you decrease the surface area, that means you are going to decrease the air resistance. And the speed will increase. So this body can move very fast. Birds also. Why the bird have streamline shape? It's the same answer. To decrease the surface area, so the air resistance decrease and the speed will be increased. What about the parachutists? Open the parachute to land safely. Why they open? When they are landing, they open the parachute. To increase, here is the opposite. To increase air resistance by increasing the surface area, so landing will landing safely, so the speed will decrease. So if you move, you have a streamline shape, you need to move fast if you want to increase your speed, so you have to decrease the surface area and to decrease air resistance. But if you want to land safely from up to down, if you want to land safely from up to down, so you have to decrease your speed. How to decrease your speed? by increasing air resistance and increasing the surface area. That's what happened to the bird when they stretch their wings. Why? When they are landing, they stretch their wings when they are landing to decrease their speed. If they want to decrease their speed, so they will increase air resistance by increasing the surface area. Again, my dear students, so we have the surface area. Why they take streamline shape? Why they take streamline shape? To increase the speed. Why increase the speed? To decrease the surface area and to decrease the air resistance. If I want to land safely, if I want to come from up to down to land safely, I have to decrease the speed. Here is, you are going to increase the speed. So if you want to increase the speed, you have to decrease the surface area and decrease the air resistance. But if you want to decrease or slow down the speed, you have to make the opposite, which increase the air resistance and increase the surface area. Now, my dear student, we finished today. Until this lesson, we're going to continue next time. See you. Bye-bye.